I have been waiting to speak to this man all year. My next guest played a huge role in the 2024 presidential election in communicating effectively to young voters. He's the MAGA influencer who made the Republican Party cool. Time magazine listed him last week on their list of the most influential voices. CJ Pearson, welcome to the program. You are one of the most influential voices online. How did you do it? How did you convince young voters subjected to endless indoctrination from elementary school to college, endless indoctrination in the culture? How did you convince them there was another way?
Well, Rita, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor to be here. You know, I've been waiting for a long time to tell you that your iconic Trump dance was one of the best videos I ever saw during the campaign cycle. But, you know, to tell you about how we reached young people, it started with reaching them exactly where they are. We absolutely flooded the zone on social media, and we had an authentic messenger to do it. While Kamala Harris was using fake accents, Donald Trump was being his unapologetic self, and it resonated with young people who were being crushed under the weight of the Joe Biden administration. His message of America First policies gave America's young people hope. And with that message, we saw the results that we did. And 20-point swing among voters 18 to 29 in this country, which, as you said, in the face of all the indoctrination that they face every single day, was a huge, huge stride ahead.
It is huge because we see this phenomenon in the West. Young voters overwhelmingly lean left. We see it in the UK, we see it here in Australia. But you changed that in the US. You were part of making MAGA cool. The rebels are MAGA, the conformists, the sheep are woke. And the media don't like that. The media don't like the way you've changed that narrative. New York Magazine was desperate to flip that perception, so much so that they tried to paint an inauguration party that you threw as young, gleeful and casually cruel, and also white only. This was splashed on the cover of the magazine, CJ. They cropped out the image to exclude the many Black, Asian and Latino attendees there. Tell me about this.
You know, it was absolutely insane. You know, it was in reading this article that I guess I came across the conclusion that I somehow was white. Now, that was a different conclusion that I arrived at this morning when I looked at myself in the mirror. But, you know, the reason that the left has to lie about what's happening in this country right now is because they're desperately so scared of what's happening in this country anymore. They realize that they're losing their grip on young America. They realize that they're losing their grip on Black America. And so they want to sow these seeds and plant these seeds of absolute division. But here's the deal. What's cruel about loving your country? What's cruel about supporting your president? Not a single thing. The reason they wrote that piece is because they wanted us to be relegated to the shadows and ashamed for loving this country and being unapologetic about doing all that we can to save the West and to save the country that we owe so much to. I will never apologize for being a Trump supporter. I will never apologize for fighting as hard as I can to make America great again, because one day I want to have kids in this country. And I want them to grow up in a country just as great as the one that my parents did.
Now, you're taking legal action against the magazine. What are you alleging there? Will a correction, an apology be enough, or has it gone beyond that?
You know, I think it has gone beyond that. You know, I think for far too long, we allowed the media to lie about conservatives with almost a lack of accountability across the board. And I think President Trump has set an incredible example. When these people lie about you, when they come for you, make them feel the pain of their actions. And so we're evaluating every single legal avenue that we have available to us. You know, the standard for defamation in this country is a little bit harder for a public figure like me, but not everyone at that party, Rita, was a public figure. Many of those folks are folks who work in Congress, who work for the president, who are private citizens, and they have the right to freely associate with a political movement of their choice. They have the right to support their president, the president who, by the way, won the popular vote. So as much as they try to stigmatize us and try to otherize us in this country, we are indeed the majority. And I am tired of being the silent majority. It's time for us to be the loud as hell majority.
Now, New York Mag has missed this exclusive, CJ, because you did throw an all-white MAGA party in DC earlier this month. Let's have a look.
And won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me, and I proudly stand up
Not the all-white party the New York Magazine were hoping for. Tell me how difficult it is to bring young black people into the MAGA camp. The black community remains the Democrats' strongest supporter base. Even though there's been a swing under Trump, they are still very much a solid supporter base for the Democrats.
Well, this party was prompted by the fact that they accused me of having an all-white party. So I guess I got to thank them for the idea, because I wasn't planning on throwing that back. It kind of gave me the extra push to do so. In terms of your question of how hard is it to get young black Americans at these events, into these parties, absolutely not as hard as it used to be, I'll tell you. I got started in the political arena when I was just 12 years old, where it was once taboo to be a young black conservative who didn't think with the color of their skin, but instead used their mind. I got to tell you now, when I go into the black community, when I go to black barbershops, when I go to black churches, and I ask the question, what have the Democrats done for us lately? What has the left done for us lately? It's silence. And I think that very silence has prompted the exodus that we're seeing with young black Americans coming over to the GOP, coming over to the MAGA movement. And I welcome it. And we're going to continue to do all that we can to go to the places that typically conservatives did not go before.